Kurt, over the weekend, we saw big raids in the Chicago area. About 1,000 people were arrested by ICE agents. Tom Homan told NewsNation today, we're expanding, we're aggressively pushing. We're going to have 2 or 3 days a week when we do these massive roundups. Illinois Senators Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth warned that these deportations, however, aren't just rounding up criminals, people who are suspected of or convicted of convicting crimes, but that they're rounding up even dreamers, who are people who were brought to the U.S. as illegally as kids, veterans, essential workers who pick crops or work construction. They said in this statement, we can all agree we must remove any dangerous individuals from our country who are here illegally. But the mass deportation actions being undertaken by President Trump go far beyond those important goals. We do know a handful of people who are not suspected of crimes were rounded up. It's undoubtedly going to continue.
Yeah, it will. And ultimately, this is what Donald Trump promised the American people he was going to do if elected. This is not a shock or surprise to anybody. This was his #1 campaign pledge, really, in a lot of ways. And Democrats are going to have to understand that the voters, they voted for Donald Trump. They voted for this. They understand that, yeah, there are going to be some people probably caught up along the way. The American people didn't care. They pulled a lever for Trump anyway because they believe that immigration is a major national problem that Democrats have done a terrible job addressing when they've been in power. And so they're willing to stomach some of these people who fall through the cracks or who may be unduly targeted. They're willing to stomach that and tolerate that because they think the overarching problem of legal immigration supersedes those things. And for Democrats, it's a lot harder to make the case that, a couple dreamers here or there, or a couple people who might be here illegally but didn't commit crimes, but you kind of did commit a crime if you're here illegally. It's like, that is a tough message to sell. That's a tough explanation to give the American people. They're not tuning in that closely. They're not paying attention to the nuance of those things. Yes, of course, anything that's being done on a justice system should be done as legally as possible. But Democrats aren't going to win anything making the case for those who fall through the cracks, because there's no constituency there for that that's going to turn the tide on this in terms of public opinion where the American people are at.
Governor, but to your point, Kurt, I think that there are many businesses in this country that do rely on labor from undocumented workers, whether it's construction or farm workers or the poultry plants. Is it at that point when those folks are being rounded up that maybe we're testing the limits of public support?
Well, if I may, I think what Homan is trying to tell folks is within that community, don't harbor these people. If we come and round these folks up because they've done wrong and they're criminals and you're with them and you're here illegally, we're going to get you too. So there's no harboring them. There's no protecting them. Get them, he's trying to force them back out, if you will, into the community so they can be rounded up easier. Because if you're a family here that's part of that dreamers, you're here illegally, but that's it. You haven't committed any crimes. Trust me, those families right now don't want anything to do with other illegals that may have committed crimes. They're saying, you're on your own. I'm not going to put my own family at risk, which actually aids in the process of gathering the criminals. He's also saying it to those businesses. Look, we know businesses hire millions of illegals every single year, but he's reminding those businesses, if you have criminals working for you, you're putting everything at risk now, because that's our target, that's our focus. Now, as this goes on, I mean, what are they saying? They're doing up to 1,000 a day. We know there's well over 1 million criminals here that they're really prioritizing. They got a lot of work to do to get through the criminal element before they just start going, through kind of I'll call it the harder working and more law-abiding illegal immigrants, as bizarre as that sentence is. But they're really making a statement to those businesses and to those folks in the community. Don't harbor these people and don't be associated. Let us do our job.
Yeah, Kurt, there's a lot of runway there, isn't there?
Yeah, there sure is. And again, the president and his administration want to make the point that they went after the worst first. That's what they promised that they would do, that they would go after the people that have committed crimes, people that are drug affiliated, gang affiliated, weapons affiliated. That's the priority, that's the target, and that's what the American people are behind. It will take on a completely different tone publicly, I think, when you start looking at the people who are actual hardworking, doing the jobs Americans won't do, the laborers, the housekeepers, the service industry, things that actually make the American economy go. The Trump administration started.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.